What do you think sets apart Outliers from the rest of the crowd? My name is Dave, and this is a 30-day challenge to help you become self-motivated. And we are on the Resilience Strategies for Dads YouTube channel, where we try to teach dads strategies that are going to help them enjoy more health and happiness in their lives. Now, if you're new to the channel, we've got this 30-day challenge going on right now where we're sharing 30 different perspectives on how you can become self-motivated. And we've got a Ironman challenge coming up later in the year where we'll be doing weekly vlogs on that experience as a 58-year-old trying to do another Ironman. And on top of that, if you want to be notified and be aware of when I post my next new video, please feel free to go ahead and like, subscribe. If you've got any comments you want to share, any questions, please leave them in the comments. I'd love to engage with my community and my audience to learn more about the struggles you're going through and how we can kind of get through that together. Now, coming up in today's video, we're going to be talking about the top 3 reasons why successful people tend to be outliers. Now, just a quick story. About 8 years ago, I was out with my wife one night. We had had a little bit too much to drink. And I don't drink a lot anyway, so when I have a little bit too much to drink, I'm saying we probably shared a bottle and a half to almost 2 bottles of wine. I probably drank most of it. And about 3 o'clock in the morning, my wife had to get up and use the washroom in the ensuite bathroom. Me being the kind of jerk that I am, I got up and I tried to race her to the bathroom to see who could get there first. All I remember is getting up out of bed. The next thing I know, I felt this massive bump on the back of my head. And I was wondering, why am I lying on the ground? Well, what had happened was when I got out of bed, and I got out of bed quickly, and I started running for the bathroom, well, there's a couple of things that happen to endurance athletes who have low resting heart rates. The first thing that happens is you tend to have lightheadedness, and you can black out from that. And so what had happened is I had gotten out of bed, and I had immediately sort of rushed towards the bathroom just to be funny, and blacked out by the time I got to the bathroom door. I fell backwards. My head hit a credenza at the end of our bed, right on the corner, sliced my head open, gave myself a concussion, and then my heart went into AFib. Now, as an endurance athlete, here's the challenge. You've got endurance athletes tend to have low resting heart rates, so they get lightheadedness all the time. They also are susceptible to going into AFib because of their low resting heart rate. And again, we didn't know if I had a concussion or not, and if that played any role into the problem. And I've been drinking. What we know from the subsequent visit to the hospital, and what happened was my wife called the ambulance, and I guess I blacked out 2 or 3 times. My son came in. He was still living with us at home at the time. He came in. I guess he had me, my head in his arms in the bathroom, and next thing I know, the paramedics are there. They're taking my heart rate. They're the ones who are telling me that I'm going into AFib. That just means you've got a bit of an irregular heartbeat. So off I go to the hospital in the ambulance, and feeling pretty foolish about the whole thing. But then when I got to the hospital, they couldn't recreate the AFib. They couldn't tell whether or not I was in a concussion. I had a CT scan, but nothing showed any real damage other than the laceration across the top of my head that got sutured up. But I was under observation for about 6 or 7 hours. And then the ER doctor came in, and he said to me, "Okay, Dave, I've got your results back and everything looks kind of normal, so we're not quite sure what happened." He said, "Now, tell me a little bit about what you would be doing today if you weren't here at the hospital." I said, "Well, honestly, I should be running a 27K run this afternoon. I'm an Ironman triathlete. I should have been doing that this morning. Instead, I'm sitting here in bed." And he looked at me and went, "Yeah, you know what? I got no advice for you because you fit outside of the norm of every one of my patients that I ever see. So you're an anomaly. You're an outlier." And that really stuck with me, and that sort of caused me to go out and buy this book, Outliers, by Malcolm Gladwell, which I thought was really interesting because it shows a lot of science behind what makes a truly successful person an outlier. It relates to sports, it relates to business. There's just some clues out there that successful people leave behind. And we're going to go through that today, and hopefully you'll find this of interest. So the first point that Malcolm Gladwell talks about in his book Outliers is opportunity and timing. In my case, I had a chance meeting. I had the opportunity to have a chance meeting with an Ironman triathlete because I was out for a run one day. I didn't meet him at the grocery store. I didn't meet him walking down the street. I was out for a run, literally running in the country, and I met him at the top of a hill. He had been climbing a hill on his bike with his wife, His wife was a little bit further behind, so when he got to the top of the hill, he stopped. And me being a talkative guy, I just looked at him and he had this ratty old Ironman t-shirt on. And I said, have you really done that Ironman thing? And he said, yes, I have. He said, are you inspired to be an Ironman? I says, not really. It's not for me. And he says, well, what do you do? I says, well, I run every day. And he says, that used to be just like me. But I realized that if all I ever do was run, it wasn't a matter of if, but when I was going to get hurt. So he went and started doing triathlon, because in triathlon, there are 2 non-impact activities you can do in case you get hurt running. That sort of made a lot of sense to me, because I was starting, after 3 years of running every single day, I was starting to get some nagging injuries in my lower back that continue to this day, to be honest with you, a little bit of inflammation. And after that chance meeting, that set in motion a number of events that just would not have happened had I not had that opportunity, because I was out for a run and the perfect timing to bump into that. He was a doctor, because I went back and talked to him a few years later after I'd done a couple of Ironmans, just to thank him, to be grateful, to show my gratitude and appreciation, which was another fun story. But after going through that experience of bumping into somebody, being inspired, and then just having a chain link of events sort of take place, it's opportunity and timing. That's where successful people tend to get their start. Opportunity, because they were in the right place at the right time. Now, Malcolm Gladwell also talks about the 10,000 hour rule. And I did the math on this the other day. I think I misspoke in one of my earlier videos where I thought I was around 30,000 hours in training about right now. I was a little bit off. I actually sat down and did the math over the last 18 years, because I know as a triathlete, I put in 500 hours of training a year. So when I went back and did the math over the last 18 years, I'm really at about 9,000 hours of training now in the last 18 years. I'm getting close to what Malcolm Gladwell would call an outlier, because I'm getting very close. In the next 2 years, I'll be at that 10,000 hour limit. And it's not necessarily a limit, but it's kind of like the threshold of where you start having wisdom and expertise to kind of know what you're talking about. And that's where I find myself today, is getting very close to that limit. Now, it's also about deliberate practice and improvement. Those 10,000 hours aren't spent banging your head against the wall doing the same things all the time. It's about constantly learning, constantly streamlining, constantly trying to find improvements. So if you think of my VIP process for resilience, I've got a vision, I've got a process, and I always look for the proof that I'm moving forward, not staying stuck, not falling behind, but moving forward. And that's really a huge lesson to learn, because it's not just about getting good, because hey, fitness, knowledge, they're just points in time, right? Our knowledge of the universe continues to expand. Our knowledge of how the internet works and can be used with AI continues to expand. Health and well-being, it's a moment in time. It will either continue to get better or it will continue to get worse, depending on how you fuel your enthusiasm towards that activity. So when you think about 10,000 hours, I think that's just a starting point. But what Malcolm Gladwell found was that most successful people have a base of 10,000 hours. It's at that point of putting in the time that they see that trajectory go like this, and then it goes like that. So if you think about building a YouTube channel right now, which is what I'm trying to do, I'm very well underneath the 10,000 hours. I think I've got something like 177 videos posted, and it's going to take time, and then it's going to go like that. But if you look at any one of the video creators out there on YouTube who have success, it wasn't overnight. They put in the time, and then all of a sudden it went off in that trajectory. So put in the 10,000 hours and be patient and keep continually learning while you do that. That brings me to step number 3, culture, legacy, and environment. It's all about family, lifestyle, and norms. At this point, if you think about it, culture is all about what you do on a day-to-day basis. We all have the families that we were brought up in. What's normal to us is what we see around us, right? We're the sum of the people we surround ourselves with. So if the sum of the people that we surround ourselves, if nobody does anything that's extraordinary or remarkable, that it could be considered to be an outlier, then we just don't see that as part of our lives. We don't aspire to achieve greater things because we don't see anybody else doing that. We think, well, why should I have to struggle? Nobody else is struggling and they seem to be having good lives. This whole idea of self-motivation and why you would want to stay self-motivated to continually improve your life, it all boils down to what these outliers do, right? It's all coming down to opportunity, putting in the time, and the culture that you create for yourself. That is what outliers generally are. Now, there are some scientific things from a sporting statistics that would say that some kids who are late bloomers or have later birthdays end up being better athletes, and there's a whole science behind that because they're kind of a year older, but they're not. So they tend to be bigger, stronger kids when they're earlier in sports. But we're not going to get into that today. We're just going to get into, what I believe an outlier is. And an outlier is somebody who is doing extraordinary things. And I liken it back to that experience at the hospital. Turns out I was fine, but after going and seeing, a new heart doctor that was the ER heart doctor from the hospital, he looked at me and he said, "I don't want you to run anymore. I don't want you to ride anymore. You need to take it easy." What are you talking about? Like, come on. I'm an Ironman. I'm not, unless you can prove to me this is a bad thing, I am not taking it easy. And, because he deals with chronically sick people all the time who are not underlying healthy. He looks at my age, chronic illness, and goes, this is where most people slot in. This is the advice that I'm going to give. This is what's going to keep me from getting sued. So I'm going to tell you to do as little as possible. That advice was crazy to me. I went and saw my original heart doctor that I already see all the time. And before I go do any Ironman race, I go and see my cardiologist. And, we're friends now in the sense that when I come in, he knows what he's dealing with. And he usually uses me as a case study for his employees when I come in and do that heart stress test. I try to tell everybody, okay, look, I know you're going to hook up the EKG machine to me. I know you're going to hook up the ultrasound to my heart. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to put me on the stress test. I'm not going to get to the heart rate you want me to because I am a fit endurance athlete. And so my heart rate's going to stay low. And then when you turn it off, don't wait the 2 minutes to wait to take the measurements. Take the measurements immediately because my heart is going to drop like a stone back to a resting heart rate level. And, I always see it happen. They think, oh, yeah, we're the professionals. Leave us alone. Let us do our job. And then I see the panic ensue when they see my heart rate dropping. Oh, shit, he was right. And they go and do all their stuff. And then afterwards, my doctor will come in and he'll sort of bring everybody together and go, okay, these are Dave's results. Because we've gone through this so many times as an Ironman triathlete. He actually told me that in Europe, this stress test is required by athletes before you go and do an Ironman race. In North America, it's not. So it's completely out of the norm for anybody in a clinical setting to experience somebody who is super fit and healthy and okay, I'm exaggerating there. I'm not super fit and healthy, but I'm an outlier compared to the norm. I'm working on it. And when they see my results, they immediately think there's something wrong. They don't assume that maybe there's something right here that is already headed in the right direction and we can learn from this opportunity. I love those moments because I know it's going to happen. He brings me in like a guinea pig. I'm happy to share and answer questions. I just think it's a really cool place to be in my life where people look at me as a positive outlier, not a negative outlier. So if you enjoyed this conversation today, I'm trying to keep these short, under 18 minutes if I can. If you like the conversation, give me a like. Consider subscribing to our channel. Leave a comment. Let me know what you're thinking about all this. I mean, I've got 30 different perspectives on self-motivation you may have never considered. And one of the reasons why I did this challenge was A, so that I could learn how to be a better YouTube creator, but B, so that people who are going through the process of trying to stay motivated, that's the challenge. Because there's a lot of inspiring people out there, but they leave you feeling empty a couple of days after you've been inspired. What do we do next? That's the big question. What I'm trying to leave you with is tangible, actionable strategies that you can use to start, finding a way for yourself to move from that stuck or falling behind position to, hey, I'm going to start consistently moving forward, and over time, I'm going to get to where I want to be. Now, tomorrow's going to be one of my fun conversations where I like to talk about getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's going to be in the video right about here. And if you're following along, and I hope you are, we are now on day 25 of our 30-day challenge. So I look forward to seeing you tomorrow in tomorrow's video. Have a great day. Bye for now, and we'll see you tomorrow.